here's the weird thing, like we have customers knocking on our door, like we need this now. We're like, what? Okay, really? What does that look like? From day one, when we looked at SolvaPay and thinking about how do we do agent-to-agent transactions, like the fully autonomous, so we were thinking about it, human in the loop, kind of hybrid, and then the fully autonomous thing is a little bit more sci-fi. That's at least a couple of months out. You have agents now that can analyze, it can write code, it can think for you, and it can act, but it can't really transact yet. Two things to that. We bring identity, auth, and kind of security, who runs that agent, but it will also give them the ability to transact, give them means of spending. We cover both sides of that as this agentic economy is taking shape.
I think Viggo saw in my face and my reactions that I thought, wait a minute, that's actually pretty huge, because there are no payment rails for the agentic world. The more you think about use cases, the more excited I got.
It sounds to me like we're looking into a future where your next customer isn't going to be a human, it's going to be an agent.
Welcome to the European VC podcast. For 2 years, we've debated what agents can do. The unglamorous answer is that most of what they can't do yet is blocked by payments. Cards and Swift were built for humans typing in their CVV. Stablecoins sound clean until you try to plug them back into the bank account that pays your salaries. Stripe is moving. Coinbase, Visa, and MasterCard have all announced. And out of Stockholm, Viggo Stenseth and his co-founders quietly built what they pitch as the neutral cross-protocol layer between all of them. Buy side and sell side sitting on the rails that already exist. In this episode, you're getting 2 segments. First, Viggo and me, the founder cut, what SolvaPay actually is, who's buying it, and the thing that caught Viggo by surprise post-launch. Customers banging on the door asking for fully autonomous agent-to-agent transactions right now. He thought that was 12 months out, but it clearly isn't. Then we bring in the lead investors, Mickaël Bellaïche, general partner at Redstone and the fintech anchor there, and Samuli Sirén, Redstone CEO and founding partner. Why Redstone went in this early on infrastructure, most LPs would still call too speculative to underwrite, what they saw that closed it for them, and whether they think agentic payments end up winner take most or a coexistence layer. If you run a SaaS or an API or a data product, this one is for you. Your next customer probably isn't human. Let's get into it.
This show is not investment advice, and the hosts of this episode may be invested in the funds and companies featured.
Tell me exactly, what are you building?
Great. We're building the payment layer for the agentic economy, taking care of both the buy and the sell side. What does that mean? Well, it means that if you are a merchant today, you have a SaaS digital service, I go out and say, you know what? There's a new customer that is looking for you, and it's not in need of a new pair of shoes. It needs your data set, it needs your API, it needs your specific knowledge and the analytics tools that you can provide. We enable you to sell that to agents in agentic systems. And then on the other side, you have the buy side. You have agents now that can analyze, it can write code, it can think for you, and it can act, but it can't really transact yet. So we bring 2 things to that. We bring identity, auth, and kind of security, who runs that agent, but it will also give them the ability to transact, give them means of spending. So we cover both sides of that as this agentic economy is taking shape. We have a lot of players in it, and we can dive into specifics of it, but it's really like enabling both the buy and sell side here.
And who are the buyers and the sellers? If you should describe the ICP here, is this Amazon for agents? In other words, it's anyone who has something to sell, and it's anyone who has something to buy.
Great question. We're seeing some patterns emerging. And of course, this is where we are right now. So builders, we have a new wave of builders. Anyone can be a builder. You can build a product now, and the cost is going to near zero. You can go from prototype to production, and now you're going to go to paid within seconds as well. So that means for us, it's also building a payment solution that enables builders. You don't have to do a lot of configuration. It's add a skill, add SolvaPay as a skill to your agent and tell it to integrate into whatever app you're building. So that's a part of it. At the same time, we also want to enable that builder and the next ICP, the SaaS owner, for what is coming. You have agents, they need your data set. They need to be able to transact on it and pay for it. So there are multiple ways we can enable that. We've really focused on like a cross-platform, cross-protocol level. So yes, you have your old sales funnel, you're selling a subscription over here. Let's enable that parallel thing, the agentic new revenue stream, where an agent on behalf of a human or autonomously can find your data set, try it, and if it likes it, you can actually buy it, buy more credits to use it, etc. So that's really like enabling the agentic sell side for the SaaS. And the third thing that this actually caught me from like by surprise, because I thought this was further out, to be honest. From day one, when we looked at SolvaPay and thinking about how do we do agent-to-agent transactions, like the fully autonomous, so we were thinking about it, human in the loop, kind of hybrid, and then the fully autonomous thing is a little bit more sci-fi. That's at least a couple of months out. And here's the weird thing, like we have customers knocking on our door and like, we need this now. We're like, what? Okay, really? What does that look like? There's a common thing there, and maybe someone will recognize themselves in this. It's like platforms. You have maybe a creator economy. So one of our early talks is with a client that has creators building purpose-built datasets, dashboards, analytics tools, and they surface them through their platform. So this customer of ours, and they have a rev share model, and they want agents to be able to spend autonomously to do analytics and use these different creator built tools. And they're like, can you solve this? And we're like, yeah, that is actually a prime use case for an agent to agent. So that really caught us a little bit by surprise that they are actually thinking about this already.
Can you tell me, is this going to run on blockchain, or does it plug into the existing financial rails?
For us, it's crucial that it fits and it plugs right into the existing financial rails. We're not anti-crypto. Stablecoins is getting adoption. You know, it's a little bit tempting to only go that route. We saw some other companies that went that route because you can just sidetrack a lot of things. But once you have to bring it back into reality, you hit the wall. You're still seeing that the world isn't there. The world still runs on Swift and like the old traditional payment rails. And if you go fully crypto, it still doesn't fit in. So for us, it's fundamental what we build works in the existing financial world. And it's important for businesses, I would say, because if you introduce risk and you have a service that is like not connected to the banking that you're using, you're introducing risk there, and that's not us. We have to be enablers, not adding risk to that system.
Tell me, I want to ask you a question here on the wider agentic economy. I'd love to hear your take on where are we, how fast is it moving? As you said, you thought that there were use cases that would only be needed in at least a couple of months. We used to talk about years, but at least in a couple of months. But you've seen use cases pop up and that really just needs to be out there deployed right now. Can you talk a bit about adoption across the startup market? And I know that startups are a great ICP for you because they're fast adopters. They need this in a faster way than the incumbents. But I'd love to hear, what are your conversations with incumbents who are moving fast, who are saying, SolvaPay, I gotta know what you're doing and I gotta figure out how we can get that into our banking system?
There's quite a bit to unpack there. There are a few things that I can highlight. I call it lazily like the battle of protocols. So we have a lot of actors in this space. We have the LLM providers that have clients and they're now building out their own marketplaces. We can think about them as their own bubbles. So you have a lot of agents in here and they have services being surfaced, but they can only operate in this bubble. So if you have like OpenAI and has its marketplace, can't really like go outside of that and buy things in the Anthropic marketplace. And how does that relate to like the battle of the protocols? But what we're seeing is both the financial layer and the technology providers are like building out protocols. Some are more gate-kept, like purpose-built for this bubble. Some are more universal, and some are now being adopted and moved out. And like, so MCP is an example. It differs than other like payment protocols specifically, but if we think about it from the perspective of how can we make something that is universally connectable, that can span this ecosystem, that is something that is really important for us. So if you have a business, you want to be able to sell and operate in all these bubbles, right? So who wins the protocol battle? We don't know. I think the universal protocols and the incumbents that embrace that, thinking about like the USB standard for this, is what's going to drive mass adoption. And that's how we see it as well at SolvaPay. We want your business connect with us, and we'll make sure that you connect across all these different protocols, so you can sell and connect to all these different bubbles.
Viggo, before we close, I just want to ask you a bit about your roadmap. Tell me where you're headed. What does the next 12 months look like for you?
So it's a speed run of getting regulatory approvals. So I mean, we truly want to have some licenses that enables us to do more for our customers and actually go down on the transaction layer. Right now, we have great payment rails underneath, and we can do things like that. So that's a big part of it. Adopting and being that multi-pronged approach where we connect you as a business to sell inside of all these bubbles is a top priority for us. We have some cross protocols, but now we want to venture in and do deep integrations inside of all these bubbles. So for the next 12 months, that means that a business connecting and using our SDK, or even a no-code solution that we have for MCP servers, that means that you can build per tool call, etc. We'll be able to sell and operate in these new marketplaces that are taking shape.
It sounds to me like we're looking into a future where your next customer isn't going to be a human, it's going to be an agent. And for that reason, I want to close this really quick announcement episode by saying to everyone out there that if you have a software as a service product, if you have an API or data set, it's already being scraped by AI, or if not, it's being unused. And that is quite a terrible state to be in. So go to check out SolvaPay and figure out how you can monetize your product in the agentic world. SolvaPay.com is your place to go to. That was a bit of a commercial. I wanted to, at least because we have so many people tuning in that are exactly your type of use case. So I think that they should definitely be checking out SolvaPay. Samuli, could you just kind of provide everyone with the context of where we're at when it comes? You've invested for decades, I was about to say, in fintech. So you've really seen the shifts that we've gone through and been there at the forefront. I'd love to understand from you, we're all talking about the agentic economy. Is that just hype? Is it a real word that matters? How do you see it?
Well, it feels like a hype, but it's quite a bit more than that. So it is a real thing, and it's for sure happening. And it's always, there's a bit of the overreaction, like every time, as the internet started, new economy, then we had the web 2.0, we had the blockchain happening. All these things were there, and quite a lot of that stayed and was as amazing as we always thought. But of course, there's quite a lot of bubble up top of that. And this is the same thing here. I find it very exciting. Mickaël knows it well. A few days before ChatGPT was released, I said, everybody, guys, now there's a big thing coming and happening. And now we've been experiencing this for 2.5 years. And that's why we invest in that, because we believe that quite a bit of this AI agentic stuff is definitely happening. At the same time, it's very challenging to figure out what is really long lasting, what is really a game changer, what is more like a, let's say, a discussion out there and horror scenarios and everything. I think I see it very positive and quite a lot of interesting stuff happening.
Question from the sidelines here. Can I say, Samuli, that you guys also invested in Grok, and maybe just ask you to say a little bit about that?
Yes, we did invest. And now it's, of course, exciting times because Grok is the XAI, and now we are, through the merger, shareholder of SpaceX. So crazy, right, in general. And yes, we did invest underlying LLM, because we said there are going to be only a few big winners who really brings this enabling technology. And that's why, as the opportunity was there to invest as a seed investor into that, we took it. And it's been extremely exciting, extremely fast moving. There have been ups and downs on that topic on multiple reasons. But now it's turning to become one of maybe the best investments we've ever made. So let's see how the IPO goes.
Okay. I just wanted it in there because I don't think most people know that you guys were actually in that round. And I think it's an exciting and important thing, both for Redstone, but also, of course, the European venture community, because I don't think that people entirely understand how well networked and what access many European firms actually have. Now, Viggo, I want to ask you, because I just asked Samuli just before to describe kind of how he's seeing the market. You're, of course, directly at the transaction side, and I'd love to ask you, are you seeing what Samuli just described showing up in the data, showing up how your customers are using SolvaPay and so on?
Great question. Is it hype or is it real? As a founder, I find myself waking up every morning. I'm like, oh, I'm late, and then right in the next call, I'm like, oh, we're early, and that to me is a signal that we are actually right at that inflection point where this shift is happening. And if there's something that is hard, it's changing human behavior. But this is something new. This is something that is acting on behalf of. There is a component that just has sped things up. That is, like Samuli said, headed towards something that is catastrophic. It could be, but there's so much good happening in it as well. Like there's so much things that use up human potential and time that just can be removed. I don't know if you've paid like invoices for your company and stuff like this, that's just like ordinary stuff that can be abstracted away on the very, very simple level. And then all the way up to having something where your business can open up into the new customer. And I will say this, like for the customers coming on, they've surprised us. So we have a shift where you run a SaaS, you have to understand now that you kind of have to run your business a little bit differently. Search traffic is going down. Maybe people don't subscribe the way they used to. They want to try your stuff before they pay for it, or maybe they even require you to pay for usage. And that has historically been pretty hard to do from a payments perspective. So that's part of like a foundational layer right now. Like you have to solve for that. And the new customer, the agent, they kind of require it. They require usage-based, etc. So there's this pressure on providers, SaaS owners, to understand and kind of change into this new way that people want to buy and interact.
Mickaël, I want to ask you, you're heading up everything that's fintech and everything that's payments at Redstone. I'd love to ask you, what in the traction numbers made you, both in terms of the entire industry, but also specifically for SolvaPay, what made you say, this is our bet, this is the one we're going with?
The honest answer is nothing in the traction numbers, because SolvaPay was so early in their journey when we invested. I think they just got started a few months earlier with an idea. Maybe it's interesting to just tell the story of how we got excited about it. So basically, I took the call after one of my colleagues made the introduction. I had no expectation at all. And during our discussion, I think Viggo saw in my face and my reactions that I thought, wait a minute, that's actually pretty huge, because there are no payment rails for the agentic world. And the more you think about use cases, the more excited I got. First, I only thought about direct to consumer, like when I don't know, ask ChatGPT or whatever solution to buy a plane ticket for me. That's not possible. But if you think business to business, and I am talking to procurement agent startups or insurance broker startups and so on, and they all have a transactional component at some point, which at this moment is not solved. So I thought, well, actually, this is not the incremental stuff I usually see in fintech. This is massive. So I got so excited that we didn't need to see traction, and decided to push the deal forward.
Samuli, I want to ask you a question here, and I want to focus a bit on the venture investor perspective. Redstone, of course, is investing across the spectrum, but you're not always doing, or in other words, you're not always doing these super early investments. Can you just talk to us a bit about how you as a firm say, okay, we will do it. It makes sense to make an investment that's pre anything, and how you kind of wrap that into the world of Redstone?
Oh, it's been an evolution. We see, earlier we were for sure quite a bit more A rounds, but now it's been more competitive in general. You have to get in early to get a reasonable stake, and it's kind of a generic thing happening. The second thing, which is very interesting with these agentic AI kind of companies, is that they very often need only one funding round. If they have a very good business model, they get into the revenue stream very fast and they grow very fast and they don't never need another funding round again. So if you want to play along and be part of that, then you might have to change this or that at Redstone side or at the venture capital side on your strategy, simply to be part of that and being able to be in it at all. And if you look what's happening, then if they do raise another round, then we're talking about crazy valuations nowadays. So later on, it's pretty impossible for a company in our size to participate later on. So we had to pivot in that sense as well from our side and go with the flow and understand the market, how it has changed. Simple as that. Is the risk higher? For sure. So you just build maybe a bit larger portfolio. You have to be strict on which one you then support further on and so on and so forth. So it changed a bit of the game as such, but I'm feeling very comfortable with it. And as Mickaël said, sometimes, of course, we don't have all the KPIs we would love to manage the risk, but that's a part of the ball game and going well so far.
And of course, it's about the team. That's a very general answer that probably every early stage VC gives. But it's just true. We look at the team. It's not just Viggo here. It's also his co-founders, all with amazing backgrounds, payments, banks, scale-ups, you name it. And then the trust that these guys are going to build something. And in the case of SolvaPay, for me, it was also shared vision that convinced me. I think how in the discussions I had with Viggo during our investment process, how we see the future of payments and how to get there and how aggressively basically you have to build a global company in order to become the payment infrastructure, to build like this 100 billion or 1 trillion company. I think this was what also connected us in a way and gave me confidence to make an investment in a pre-seed company.
Also, for sure, it's been quite a change in the last 2 years. First we had kind of everything is AI, and I can tell we don't get any pitch deck anymore which doesn't say we are the AI whatever and the only ones who can do it like this. It's a bit crazy. But then to figure out where is the specialty in there, and combine with the payment, which has been an enormously good business model for a long time, and having an agentic solution in payment, that was of course here especially interesting, and also then the good reason to go in early. So on the other hand, we also see that SolvaPay definitely have a great chance to get into revenues very early on. They don't have to wait for years and build everything for an extremely long time. So very interested about this and very, very curious to see where Viggo brings this.
Viggo, I want to ask you, deciding who to raise from, deciding how much to raise, deciding what's the right time, thinking about your future fundraising journey as well. As Samuli said, sometimes as an AI company today, you don't even have to raise any subsequent rounds. All you need is the first one. That is true for some, and then there are others where we can definitely see it's the opposite. A company like Grok raised quite a bit of capital as an example. So talk us a bit about how you're thinking about your own capital journey.
Yeah, no, great question. I'll say this. I mean, if there's anything, it's just like meeting someone that understands your thesis, especially where we were, where we present a thesis basically, and it's very few talks that I sat down into that actually made the connection points and we could paint the future in that conversation, and I don't have to explain it. It was a discovery, and that for me was the signal. Like, okay, this is aligned. This is good, because I'm not gonna bash a bunch of other VCs, but it's super easy to just like try to retrofit and make what exists and like paint the world out of that. And it kind of stops there. And they're like, oh, I have to bring in a technical person to explain how this is going to work. And then, that's not the great fit for us, to be honest. Like, you have to be able to see the bigger picture, understand the thesis, and we can discuss the thesis. And that's what happened with Mickaël and Redstone in particular. We could skip a lot of the things and just discuss, what does this look like? What does success look like? And what is our unfair advantage in this? I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't do it with Ingmar and Tommy. I feel slightly insane doing it as is, because there's so many things that we have to do faster than anyone else has done before. And it's not about building technical product. It's pairing that with a regulatory framework, getting the licenses, doing this in a way that exists and functions in the existing financial system, not trying to side pass it. I'm not anti-crypto. Mark Andreessen sent a Bitcoin to an agent on X. That's what kind of started my thinking, deep thinking, and really obsessing about payments in the agent space. So we're not anti-crypto in that sense, but it has to work today. So it's like pairing moving super fast with building product, with building regulatory licensing and frameworks that match that. In the conversation with Redstone, having someone that understands that it's capital intensive to acquire licenses, but I didn't have to explain why we needed that. There's yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That brings moat. So raising capital at this stage, you have to have someone that understands your thesis and understands, the vision that you're painting and what you're bringing, and believes in your path there. I mean, we're going to have course corrections along the way. We have to fix things. We have to figure out perfect product market fit. But we're seeing something that is very interesting and is working and bringing value from day zero. So, yeah.
Mickaël, let me go to you then, because I want to ask you, as the investor that truly understands payments here, could you just paint the market for us and the necessary go-to-market motions that Viggo has in front of him, and how you're thinking about that? And then I think we should have a conversation about what adoption will look like, how the market needs to evolve, what stakeholders we need to move, those types of things.
Yeah, sure. I will paint a very simplified picture of the market, also because that's that's all I know, but also for the purpose here. I think you have existing payment rails everybody is using today that emerged out of e-commerce and the internet, like Stripe, for example, which actually started a bit similar as SolvaPay did or is now, having solutions for specific use cases that have been around now for a couple of years. You have all kinds of different stakeholders in the payment process, which are there for regulatory reasons, which are there for security reasons, which are there to make payments faster, cheaper, and so on. But that was not exciting enough for us anymore to build VC cases around it. Hence, now we have a completely new world where payment infrastructure is needed. So I don't think that SolvaPay will be the only player around in the future. I think SolvaPay is well positioned to become basically the new Stripe in terms of go-to-market motion. Viggo, if I'm allowed to tell this here, but I will. You stop me if I'm not. Has a similar approach of being close to the ones building the agentic world, meaning being close to the lovables of this world, to the people who build applications for the real world, where then SolvaPay can be used. That's a bit also the difficulty for me, because I don't know exactly what the use cases will be. I can just have ideas, but it's pretty exciting to be part of it. And hence, it's important to be, let's say, in Sweden, where you are already and where Lovable coincidentally is as well, but it's equally important to be in the US or elsewhere in the world. So that's pretty challenging for a small company. And yeah, we can only help and push.
Viggo, can you go as concrete as possible around how you're thinking about navigating this fact that you need to build product at the same time as you need to get regulations approved, and you need to, of course, also be with the customers, get it into production really quickly so that they can build with you rather than duct tape it with Stripe or something else?
I mean, there will be, like, let's face it, people will be duct taping. Like, there's going to be a ton of retrofitting, and I don't see that as something super negative. It's like, it just gives us more data on what we need to get right from the beginning. And what Mickaël said, it's such, a good thing for us to actually sit down in a dinner with the founders of Lovable and the likes, and actually sitting there and listen. Okay, there are patterns here of problems that they are seeing. Everything from throughput billing, how are they going to charge for services that they, funnel through their service? There's an orchestration happening. How do you balance that, like for services that are below their platform? How do you build that to the end customer? These are patterns that are emerging in these new AI companies that I think are just super well fits for this agentic type of transaction. So it's listening in and being able to sit in these conversations and then having to decide what to build and what not to build from day one. And then the last part is like, how do we manage doing that, understanding the problem, building the things that bring value today, and also acquiring the licenses, because they don't move at agentic startup speed, even if you want to. Like, acquiring licenses still take 18 months, 12 months if you do everything right. That means that our first hire is a great compliance officer. It's kind of weird, like having 3 co-founders and a compliance officer and a communication UX guru. But we are 3 technical co-founders, and we need compliance added on top of that. So we can run that in parallel. But it's getting and acquiring some funding, which we have now, which is great. So we can start that journey and we can pursue that aggressively, and we have to be really, really smart about it.
Mickaël and Samuli, maybe you can try and bridge, so to say, the old world to the new world here, because things are moving incredibly rapid right now. And that is a bit in contrast to some of the fintech space before, which we could operate at a different pace. Can you talk about what you're seeing change in the market in terms of pacing, and how that is changing how you're thinking about SolvaPay versus how you would be thinking about a fintech investment 3 years, 5 years ago?
Oh, wow. An easy one. Well, yeah, first of all, there's of course this discussion suddenly out there, everything SaaS-based is dead and now everything has to be agentic. If I look how it went back in the days, half of the existing companies will find their way and will renew their processes and structures and are able to adapt the new technology, and they do fine. And the other half are dropped out, and the new players like SolvaPay can take over. That's been always like that. So I'm not too worried about, that everything is crashing and everything is done newly. And of course, we have quite a few of those old stuff also in our portfolio. So we've been out there for 12 years. So we have also that part in the game. And I think that is a bit of the transformation where we are at. And there is an opportunity. And I remember I had that call with Viggo back then. And he said they have an architecture, the existing players, which that doesn't work out in the world of agentic. So if they do want to change like a Stripe, they might have to build quite a bit of new stuff for them. So whereas my opportunity in my thinking is say, well, maybe SolvaPay is building such a great thing that Stripe finds it easier to buy it than to build it by itself. And that's been always a very good case for venture capitalists.
Fintech is, of course, huge. Fintech in the past years, or in the beginning of fintech, where I started like 10 years ago, it was fintechs against the financial institutions. Then it was fintech together with the financial institutions. And now it's everything AI. For short term, there was also blockchain, but nobody's talking about it anymore for some reason, or it just evolved into stablecoin usage and so on and matured. What I see is that at the moment, many fintechs or companies in the space focus on process automation in the end of the day, building agents to make a somewhat complex process faster, cheaper, easier, more convenient, maybe safer. And this is also quite risky, also from a venture capital point of view, because who is winning there? Often it's the one with the most capital, with the best network, with, I don't know, maybe exited founders that get then money from shiny VCs, and not necessarily the best solution winning. Hence, what we as very focused fintech investor like is if there is a complicated component in it, such as payment infrastructure, where there is regulation. This is all an entry barrier for others in the end of the day. What I see now also, because in the end of the day, who are the buyers of the solutions? Banks, a Stripe, like Samuli just said, they always ask themselves, can we do it ourselves? Maybe cheaper, faster. They also can hire AI specialists nowadays. They don't live behind a rock. Or does a company we acquire have a infrastructure, a patent, maybe an advantage that we rather acquire than build ourselves? And that's how we look at companies at the moment. Because in the end of the day, it's about exits. And if you cannot sell a company because it's just process automation, maybe that's very generic, but then it's eventually not an exit candidate.
Could you, Viggo, reflect a bit on everything you heard here from Mickaël and Samuli and how you're thinking about building up moats and getting to the point where this company becomes huge, and whether you're thinking at all about orienting towards an exit case now or where you are on the founder journey?
Maybe that's the one point where we're not aligned. I'm building this to build it and I think the team is as well. We see that this is going to be something that is part of every day for any business owner, and thinking about exits at this point doesn't bring me a lot of value. I see it, of course, it's interesting, but it's also the opposite question that's interesting. Like, what number can I say no to and sleep at night? Because I'm
happy about this, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
Maybe we should just clear something up, right? Because this is the age-old question that every VC and founder, like, how do you navigate that? Should you talk about it? Should you not? And the thing that Mickaël and Samuli are saying here is that as a VC, you of course always have to look at any investment as this is a position that needs to be liquidated at some point. What are the routes? And of course, the beautiful route is it stays as its own. It's going to IPO. It's going to be a $100 billion company, and that would be awesome. But is there also an off-ramp in case that's not the right route? And does that off-ramp look good? And that is just one of the scenarios that any VC works with. That doesn't mean that Samuli and Mickaël here are saying, yeah, I think we're just going to sell this when it's about 500 million and we're going to get out.
No, I know. And we know that.
I'm making it super clear for everyone in the audience, because it is for the less well-traversed founder. It's one of those things that are seemingly super hard for them to navigate and understand the dynamic of.
If I add a one line, it's in the end, that's our business model. So that's why it's from the very beginning on our list. But we definitely don't expect that to be on the list of the founder. I want exactly the founder, what you, Viggo, is saying. That's what we want you to do. And I can also tell we very seldom have a conflict in that then when it's that far and the exit need is there from different reasons. It's usually very good and constructive and right kind of discussion. So I'm not worried about that. But I definitely want you to focus exactly on what you said, Viggo, at the moment. So make it as big, world leader, champion, everything. I'm totally fine with that.
So I mean, if anything, I wanna kind of pat myself a little bit on the back, because at the very, very early, even before we sat down as a team at SolvaPay, I was looking at the agentic payment space. I have some notes in my notebook, like discussing with myself why there needs to be an agentic bank. And I distinctly remember like seeing news that oh, MasterCard agent this, Visa agent this. And I'm like, oh, wow, they've already built it. And you kind of dismiss it. And you're like, oh. And the best part is like Ingmar, he was building. He didn't care about the news. He just started building the seed, and the synchronicity of it, us coming together as a team with a seed, kind of a map on how to actually do this, and actually looking at what has been built by the incumbents. We're like, there's actually not much here. Like we can actually do this better from the ground up. And also now happening both in conversations with VCs, but we're also talking to these incumbents because they're very, very curious. And now having those conversations come back and hearing like backroom chatter, like, oh, actually a big credit card company says that you should look at these guys because they are actually in the forefront of this, kind of gives you like, okay, wow, this is actually a space that isn't built yet. It's something that the incumbents are looking at. They haven't figured out everything. And I can't say that we have figured out everything else, but it reinforces the point that we are early here and we can actually build something of substance that even the incumbents think, and that props you up to the exit possibilities or acquisitions. And then as a founder, we have to think, what number can I say no to? Because we want to build this, right? Yeah. But a little journey there for you.
Yeah, Viggo, I want to ask you, because you just mentioned, do the world need a agentic bank? Is that the end goal here? Is that becoming an agentic bank, or is it rather that you'll plug into the existing infrastructure and provide your services, so to say, to the existing incumbents?
That's an excellent question. The agentic bank was just one way for me to dive into the subject matter. That's how I framed it. I do believe that there has to be one at some point. We can see a large discrepancy right now in the existing world, like the banking system here in Sweden and like the neobanks here are miles behind what we would sign up for in the US, where they're like super friendly banking services, and you have banking as a service popping up. But yeah, short answer, there definitely needs to be that. But that was my kind of framework of thinking about it. When we sat down as a team, it's really about that transaction. Like, what does an agentic transaction look like, and what does it need to operate on scale? What does machine speed mean? Is it microtransaction? How small can a microtransaction be? What does billing look like for that? Is it postpaid, prepaid? Does it make sense to have settlement on these really, really tiny transactions, or is there mechanisms to roll them up? Interesting stuff here that we love digging into, and not trying to do it in a like cheating way, doing it that fits into the existing financial layer. I think that's key for us. So when you use SolvaPay, your bank is not going to say, oh, wait a minute, you're touching crypto and you're doing things over here. We don't like that still. That's a no-go for us.
Picking up that line of agentic bank, I think if you look back in the day, what is the most valuable company is the one who owns the customers. And now it's, of course, if, as Viggo said earlier, there's a new kind of customer there. And I think there is a big opportunity who owns the agentic customers. Then if you become really kind of the place to go interface for any agent to trigger payments through SolvaPay, then you become a very strong player. And then we can discuss a lot about theoretically, if is this a bank or not, but the ownership of a customer is the key always when you talk about really the high scaling, high valuable businesses. And that's definitely one of the ideas behind why we invested in back in the day, because they have a chance to be that.
From day zero, that is crucial. Who owns the agent? We actually bring right from the get-go identity. We bring capability to people building both agentic services, meaning that you can give an agent a way to spend, but also add authorization and identity to that entity. And that's crucial. So we both have the buy and the sell side. While it might be a little bit restricted in terms of licensing, from day zero. You have to move in a controlled space. But with the licenses, that should and will be able to cross these different marketplaces and across these bubbles that I talked to about before. But yeah.
I want to ask you before we close, because I think a lot of people will be saying, Stripe, they're firing on all cylinders. They're releasing the agent toolkit. They have an MCP server. What is it that should stop them short of just doing what you're doing?
I like Stripe. We've implemented Stripe quite a bit. We use Stripe as an underlying payment rail. So we're not like anti-Stripe, but it's a massive thing.
I think we all love Stripe.
Yeah.
As founders, we love Stripe.
And they have a great team. I've talked to people there. In short, I've also worked at really big code bases, massive. It's a tanker because there's all the wiring in between, and you have to turn that around to fit something that is very different in its need, like the core value proposition, the microtransaction, the usage-based. I won't say that they are afterthoughts, but they weren't as needed when they built the full solution. So it's like building out those capabilities on top or having them from the beginning. If I have to frame it, that is perhaps the thing where those, we can frog leap. We can take that and have that in from the very, very beginning, and we don't have to retrofit it. And we can be super lean and adapt to behaviors of agents that are changing every day, to be honest. So, yeah.
I have to say, as someone who is really trying to put everything inside EUVC into the world of agents, you can just see how fast things are moving. And it does not surprise me at all that you're saying that the big incumbents, while they know this is important and going to change a lot, that they should be able to adapt with the speed that founders are building today. I cannot see it happen. I don't think we've ever had anything move as fast as this. Mickaël, Samuli, Viggo, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it in the audience as much as we did talking about it here. I think we're at the cusp of something great.